A new way to cross the world's busiest border. The San Ysidro port of entry opens more lanes for pedestrians. Plus, from rodents to roof leaks, the Navy says one of its major San Diego properties is in bad shape.
It is right that New Jersey can have stronger standards than the feds, and President Trump is going after us. We're going to come together and stop this.
California gets help in its fight over car emissions. How New Jersey is trying to stop the EPA's rollback.
Young sailors, a lot like us, but 70 years ago, who gave their lives for this country, and it's an incredibly powerful moment in our lives.
And lost at sea, how the Scripps Institute of Oceanography found a shipwreck where dozens of sailors lost their lives. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A new addition at the San Ysidro port of entry promises to speed up wait times for those entering the U.S. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman was there for the opening of Ped East.
Just steps away from the trolley is a new pedestrian crossing here on the east side of the border, and they say it will actually cut the wait time in half. People who cross into San Diego from Tijuana daily can tell you all about the long lines and wait times.
I wake up very early in the morning. Yeah. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to my job at 8.
At peak times, it can take 2 hours to get through the San Ysidro land port of entry, but now that's changed. What used to be just 8 lanes for northbound pedestrian processing is now 22 here at this newly constructed East building.
Our acceptable rate is no wait whatsoever. However, we're bulking that with, of course, technology that we have here. RFID scanners that will read documents much quicker than they ever did before. So all those things play a part in being more efficient with processing individuals to the United States.
The finished construction was celebrated with a ceremony, the opening made possible by a collaboration between the U.S. General Services Administration, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and bipartisanship.
The whole delegation from San Diego worked together. It's one of those times where we have different views on immigration, obviously, but we all work together. And I want to thank Darrell Issa, and I want to thank Duncan Hunter, and I want to thank Susan Davis. And of course, I want to thank my good friend, Scott Peters.
With more than 20,000 people walking through the pedestrian processing lanes daily, the effort and new facility is much appreciated.
I know that my guys are going to be able to show up to work on time, and the building looks great, and it looks a lot more efficient. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be better for everybody.
Jade Hyman, KPBS News.
Ped East is part of the second phase of a modernization project. It's scheduled to be complete by the fall of next year. President Donald Trump has threatened a government shutdown to secure funding for a new border wall. KQED immigration reporter Julie Small recently toured the prototypes in San Ysidro and spoke with Border Patrol about their work in the Trump era.
So here we're at the prototypes, 4 concrete, 4 of alternate materials. This one's just solid concrete. You can see how thick the concrete is on the bottom. It's probably, 3 feet of solid thick concrete. 30 feet tall. The bottom's probably about 2 feet thick. This was actually poured in place. They all go down at least 6 feet. So this is steel bollards for probably the first 10, 12 feet. And then it has an anti-climbing plate in the middle, about 4 feet. And then on top of that, it has concrete. The next one has a little bit more of an aesthetic feature on our side. Has more of a stamped concrete look, and it has an anti-climbing kind of canted fence. It's angled towards the south side. Not a lot of people would be willing to climb this. Are people still going to get up and over it? Yeah, it's going to take them a lot more time, of course, which is a benefit for us.
Currently, the wall along the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego is 2 fences built in the 90s that together span 46 miles. They can be cut or scaled in a matter of seconds.
When this was originally built in the late 90s, 1997 around, It was very effective just because it would stop people, take them a little longer to jump up and over. They can still get through, cut this in about 30-45 seconds with the tools available now. For example, battery-operated Sawzall, skill saw. And so that's why it's time to replace this with something like the prototypes that we saw earlier.
Roughly 2,000 agents like Theron Francisco patrol the California border. They also watch for smugglers at ports of entry such as San Ysidro, between Tijuana and San Diego.
It's the busiest land port in the world. They deal with roughly about 100,000 people a day. As you can see behind me, they're undergoing a huge expansion, increasing the number of vehicle lanes coming through, the pedestrian lanes. So with the construction going on the south side, we've had, imposters, aliens come across and they'll dress up like construction workers. We'll have a number of agents close to the construction area so they can keep an eye on that.
Agent Francisco joined the U.S. Customs and Border Protection 8 years ago. He was drawn to the job by a personal connection.
My wife's grandfather was a retired agent. When I met her, he worked out of the El Cajon station, and just hearing his stories, like the camaraderie between the agents, they always bragged about him and how good he was, like as far as sign cutting, because that's a large portion of our job is sign cutting, which is just following footprints, tracking people, tracking usually footprints or disturbances in the ground. So whether it's the imprint of the shoe, or now they use carpet squares or a type of booty around their shoe, and just hearing how good he was, I want to be like that one day. Apprehending your first group of illegal aliens, actually tracking them from the border for a couple hours, and you finally make that apprehension. The first time, it was like nothing else I've ever felt. That put a smile on your face and made you proud, like you're making a difference. And then making apprehensions at the checkpoint, rescuing people that were stuffed in trunks in the middle of the summer, pleading for water. That's pretty gratifying as well, because you don't know how long they would have made it if they got past you.
So far this year, the Border Patrol in the San Diego sector has apprehended 28,000 people. That's up nearly 10% from 2017. The Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy adopted in May led to the widely criticized separation of thousands of migrant children from their parents. The policy has since ended. Sometimes in your job, you have to apprehend families, little children. How do you handle that? Is that difficult?
Not necessarily. It's just a part of the job. You kind of have to understand that where they're coming from, they're trying to better themselves, but they have the responsibility to enter legally, whether that process is difficult or not feasible for them. But my job is to stop illegal entries, and that's what I do. That father could be a wanted criminal or have a pretty bad rap sheet, so you kind of have to keep that on the back of your mind. You can't get complacent, can't get comfortable, but you feel for him, but there's a right way to enter and there's a wrong way.
Our tour along the border ended where the last planks of the fence recede into the Pacific Ocean. We stood near a spot called Friendship Circle, where for a few hours on the weekends, visitors on either side of the border can speak to each other through a metal fence. But these days, the fight over immigration in the U.S. is testing the bonds of friendship with Mexico like never before, and increasing scrutiny of border policies and the people who have to enforce them.
There are more eyes on us in the media, but we're used to that, we can handle that. But as far as on the field, I think the guys and gals in green have adapted well, and they continue to do their job.
Even if a new border wall eventually gets funded and built, it remains to be seen if a new barrier, no matter how tall, will stop people daring or desperate enough to cross the border.
That was Julie Small of PBS station KQED in the Bay Area. You can also watch the KPBS series, America's Wall, at kpbs.org. A new report highlights unsafe conditions inside SPAWAR. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh finds that aging facilities hamper the Navy's West Coast Innovation Hub.
The Naval Inspector General reported a number of safety issues related to SPAWAR's aging headquarters complex in Old Town.
We're here at the northern edge of SPAWAR. This is Building 3. The Inspector General's report says the problem here is not only are these buildings old, but it's that sawtooth design you see up there. Some of the windows are cracked, others are stuck open.
Workers are exposed to dripping water. Bird feces have rained down from the ceiling in Building 3. More than 4,000 employees work at the facility. Some have complained. SPAWAR spokesman Steve Davis issued a statement saying, in part, we have had employees who have reported health issues that they believe are due to the work environment. When that occurs, employees are encouraged to seek medical expertise for evaluation. The command is concerned about the health of all employees, and ensuring their safety is a top priority. During World War II, the SPAWAR complex was used to manufacture aircraft. The open hangars have been converted to offices. SPAWAR spent $26 million from 2013 to 2016 to upgrade the Old Town complex. Investigators said that would likely not be enough to solve the problems. Overall, the Navy's Inspector General gave SPAWAR high marks, saying the Navy's high-tech hub required more funds to carry out its range of responsibilities. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
SPAWAR officials agree with the Inspector General's findings. There are new developments in the death investigation of Earl McNeil. As Matt Hoffman reports, the district attorney is looking into whether any use of force by National City Police was justified.
Community members and activists are calling for the San Diego County District Attorney's Office, who took over the death investigation from National City Police, to recuse itself from the investigation.
The DA has the case. What we also want you to question is conflict of interest, because the DA also used Earl McNeil as a confidential informant.
KPBS has asked the DA's office if McNeil was a paid informant, but they would not confirm. KPBS was able to confirm, though, that McNeil served as a witness in a murder trial that resulted in the accused getting a life sentence in 2011.
Secrecy is not the way to build trust. We are in agreement that the district attorney should recuse herself from this investigation. This investigation should be turned over to the Attorney General's office or the FBI.
The DA's office did tell KPBS it has reached out to the California Attorney General's office to see if there is a legal basis for a recusal. A spokeswoman also said the DA is working with the FBI's Civil Rights Division on the case. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
LA's subway system will be the first in the country to use body scanners. The portable technology will be installed over the next few months. Passengers will be scanned at a distance for metallic and non-metallic weapons or explosives. The scanners are capable of screening up to 2,000 riders per hour. The body of a 12-year-old girl has been recovered from the San Vicente Reservoir in Lakeside. Divers had been searching since the girl fell into the water last weekend. She was on a boat with family who were visiting from Canada. San Diego Fire and Rescue says she was wearing a life jacket, which was later found in the water. States around the country have followed California's lead in fuel emission standards. One of those is New Jersey, which is joining a legal fight against the Trump administration. Brenda Flanagan from NJTV has this story.
A gorgeous day at the beach in Long Branch belied a political storm raging between New Jersey and the Trump administration over protecting clean air regulations from looming rollbacks by the EPA. If Trump's EPA strikes those rules, it could mean higher fuel costs and dirtier air for New Jersey residents, according to an environmental coalition.
Bad for consumers, it's bad for public health, it's bad for the car industry.
6 years ago, the Obama administration set goals for 2025 to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 50% and reduce fuel consumption by 40%. Car makers were aiming for vehicles that'd get 54.5 miles a gallon.
This is part of where you keep the cost down, because if you have emissions that are much more efficient, you're not going to have the same prices of gas, the same car prices. We're going to save money in terms of our cars in the long run.
And this is about our future, about being able to have cars that we don't have to worry about tailpipe emissions, that we don't have to worry about all the pollution. And so we're here today to tell that fossil fool in the White House, hands off our clean cars.
42% of New Jersey's greenhouse gas pollution comes from tailpipes, cars, and trucks. The greater New York area, including 13 northern New Jersey counties, ranks 10th worst in the nation for ozone levels this year, according to a recent report. Increased emissions could have a profound impact on health in a state where 600,000 people suffer from asthma.
It means that we're going to have more asthma attacks. We're going to have more premature deaths. We're going to have more strokes. We're going to have more heart disease. We're going to have more emergency room visits.
New Jersey's already joined other states to sue the EPA over its plans to weaken rules governing clean air, large polluting trucks, and hydrofluorocarbons, a damaging compound that was restricted for use in aerosols and refrigerants. Advocates called it a states' rights issue, a concept which in the past attracted even some Republican support.
New Jersey has joined California and more than 10 other states to have these clean car standards. It's up to us, and it is right that New Jersey can have stronger standards than the feds. And President Trump is going after us. We're going to come together and stop this.
A recent poll shows 74%, that's 3 out of 4 New Jersey voters, support state government action to reduce air pollution. That'll be one of many issues on the voters' minds when they head to the polls in November. In Long Branch, I'm Brenda Flanagan, NJTV News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the Pentagon's partnership with Silicon Valley, an effort to innovate along the digital front line. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Warm weather will stay with us through the weekend, but there's a chance of thunderstorms in the mountains and deserts. Julia Wyden has details in tonight's forecast.
Good evening. We're taking a look at your satellite and radar, which in our area is a very quiet picture. We are not going to be dealing with any showers or storms in our coastal spots for tonight or for tomorrow. However, as you look farther back to the east, higher elevations we'll be keeping out an eye for the potential for a few of those showers and storms as we get some monsoonal moisture to come on in from the east. Bigger picture here, watching for some wet weather popping up across Nevada, but a lot of California has been really dry. You can make out some showers and storms well off to the south and east, down in extreme southwestern Arizona, but really not too many problems around here. For tonight, partly cloudy to mostly clear. I do think we'll have some increase in cloud cover in our coastal areas through the overnight. Temperature in Oceanside, 68 degrees. San Diego, we're looking at coming down into the low 70s. And again, partly cloudy conditions. May get a couple more of those clouds to fill in as we head on into the early morning hours. Coastal spots stay nice and cool all throughout California. We will be keeping an eye on the threat for some isolated showers and storms across Arizona, up into eastern Nevada. This is where you have that monsoonal moisture pressing on in. Again, can't rule out a few of those showers and storms trying to press on into the higher elevation areas, even into some of our deserts. Borrego Springs, 103 degrees for your high temp tomorrow. And then over the weekend, high pressure remains in place, so we will be staying rather warm. We do need rain in this area. We are still under that severe drought. Let's check in on your extended forecast. Temperatures are going to be in the low 80s at the coast for the next 5 days. Taking you inland, will be in the upper 80s. Here, not a whole lot of variation in the forecast. High temps ranging from about 87 to 89 degrees. In the mountain areas, we will be gradually warming as we head on into the weekend. And again, can't rule out that threat for an afternoon shower or thunderstorm on your Thursday. Desert spots, temperatures are also going to be gradually warming as well. Lots of sunshine over the weekend. High temps around 107. Back to you, Ebony.
A portion of Yosemite National Park that was closed for 3 weeks due to a wildfire has reopened. The Ferguson fire has been burning for more than a month and has killed 2 firefighters. Nearly 100,000 acres have burned. Yosemite was closed for 20 days during the peak of the tourist season. It was the longest closure in decades. Local businesses lost millions of dollars. San Diego researchers have helped find a sunken destroyer from World War II that's been lost for nearly 75 years. Dozens of sailors lost their lives when the USS Abner Reed was blown apart on August 18, 1943, off the Alaskan Aleutian Islands.
My name is Andy Nager. I'm an oceanographic engineer at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography within the Coastal Observing Research and Development Center. I am part of the Project Recover team and have been a part of the Project Recover team since 2013. Project Recover is an organization that attempts to fulfill the promise of finding the World War II MIAs and then reporting it back to the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency. I was on the Norseman too when we found the USS Abner Reed. We found the back half, the stern, 35 meters or so, that was sunk off the northwest part of Kiska. And most notably and sadly is that 71 lives were lost when this ship was sunk back in August 18th, 1943. The Battle of the Aleutians is really an interesting footnote in World War II. Basically, it's an 1,000-mile stretch of war where the Japanese took over and occupied the islands of Attu and Kiska on the far western part of the Aleutian Islands. And because of the Japanese occupancy of American territory, it was very much swept under the rug by the U.S. government. The Abner Reed basically was hit by something. People suppose that maybe it was a floating mine. They talk about possible engine failure. The causes are really unknown. But basically, the back 35 meters was hit and started to break off slowly. And amongst the chaos and rest, gases came and enveloped the individuals on board in the stern section. But the front ends managed to hold on long enough that another destroyer, the USS Bancroft and the USS Ute, were able to tow the Abner Reed from its precarious situation all the way back to safety at Adak Harbor. Scripps Institution of Oceanography, we work with autonomous platforms and high-tech sonars. In this case, we originally located the Abner Reed with a boat-mounted multi-beam, which is basically 512 beams that are coming off this sonar head mounted on the boat, and as the boat moved forward, it paints the sea floor. And we were basically able to image, and we saw very cleanly a level deck listing to one side on the bottom of a sandy floor, came around a couple more passes, honing in the beams and focusing on, and basically kind of came up to the conclusion that we're seeing a deck with a rear tail gun, and it seemed to make sense that that was the Abner Reed. We then later put our autonomous platforms, our autonomous underwater vehicles, untethered robots to swim and image it with side scan. And finally, we dropped our tether remotely operated vehicle, which has live forward sonar and live camera feeds, and we basically did a full sweep imaging, seeing very clearly the prop, the tail gun, and the full part of the USS Abner Reed, including all the biological growth on it. Whenever we do a find, and the Abner Reed included, we, on top of our ship that we are on, the Norseman II, we do a flag ceremony. So in this case, it's a traditional folding of the flags. We played taps, we did a wreath ceremony, and it basically is used as our way of honoring those who served and were lost. It's always an incredibly powerful time for us. I mean, we take deep breaths, we consider like those the young sailors, a lot like us, but 70 years ago, who gave their lives for this country, and it's an incredibly powerful moment in our lives. And honestly, we all think about hopefully the closure that it's providing for the families who lost the loved ones 75 years ago.
Members of Project Recover say they've found 17 complete American military planes since 2014, as well as numerous pieces of ships and Japanese military craft. Southern California-based SpaceX has been sending cargo to the International Space Station for the past few years. In a few months, it will send humans. This week in Hawthorne, NASA astronauts chosen to be part of the first SpaceX manned mission talked about the challenges they've faced and what they're looking forward to. NASA has been working with SpaceX and Boeing on a plan to launch crews from the U.S. since the Space Shuttle program was retired in 2011.
This is my first time going through all of this, and so just the opportunity to go to the space station and to be a part of a crew, that is an overwhelming opportunity in and of itself. So to then be able to help in this process, get Bob and Doug ready to go flying, and then to train with Mike, and not just to fly the crew vehicle, but then to also work and live on the space station, I'm overjoyed. I mean, this truly is a test pilot's dream, and I'm excited about the whole thing. And being from Southern California, it's really cool to have to come out here and work with SpaceX too. So it's great all the way around.
I couldn't consider myself more lucky to be a small part of this incredible program and this team, and to be able to come out here and basically have a small contribution to a new spaceship. As we've all said, you know, being able to fly a first flight of a vehicle as a test pilot is a once in a generational type of opportunity. So obviously I'm very thankful for it. But I would also say that we've got a lot of work left to do, and we are in it for the long haul.
SpaceX plans to test launch its Dragon capsule by the end of the year. The first launch with the NASA crew is planned for the spring. Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, sailboat drones on the high seas, how scientists are using drone technology to monitor the health of our oceans. And on Midday Edition, a conversation with author and performer Megan Alice about her new book of poetry, A Bouquet of Daisies. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.